Hi, Gay DeRusso with the Majestic rider. So today I'm on Shane, and Shane's come a long way. He's 6, or he was 6, maybe 7, I always forget. And he's a Rocky Mountain horse, if you can't tell. And when I first got him, he was on the trotty side. So he could trot, he could canter, and he could foxtrot a little bit. And then I taught him to gait. And I'll try to post some stuff in here from the beginning when I was showing him. Because before, when he was trotty, I had to bring his head way up to help him to get that lateral gait. And once he got that pretty good, well, then he started to get a little step pacey. He never really got hard pacey, but he did get step pacey. So he kind of went from trotty to the other side, lateral, and then went step pacey. And that can happen with a lot of Rockies. Okay, so then I had to ride him down with his head down more instead of up, and I had to get him to relax his back, because he would tuck his nose in and all of that, but sometimes he wouldn't relax his back enough, and so he would still stay step pacey, because again, it's coming from their back and their neck. The tension in the muscles help him to get the gait. But now he's doing pretty well. And how they rode him before I got him was they cantered a lot, because he didn't really gait. And he wasn't, of course, fast enough then to keep up, and who wants to trot that whole way, so they let him canter. So when I first got him, he cantered a lot, and every time I'd try to ask for speed, that was his, go-to, and then he would kind of canter and half gait and half canter, and so he would do that gait a little all the time, and he would start throwing in little of those steps, which of course makes the horse look like they're off, because they're kind of bouncing up and down. Okay, so I want you to see the progression of a young horse, and you can look back at all his videos of where he's come, because this can happen as they're gaining muscle and they're gaining strength. They can change, and they can go from trotty to pacey, okay? Or they can go from pacey to trotty, so it just varies. So this is his flat walk, but we're going to go just a little bit faster. And as we start going into his other gaits, I'm going to try to bring his head down, but keep his neck kind of flat. I don't want him overarched, because then he tends to tense up his back some. So just remember, if you got some of these Rockies and they got the trot and the pace in them, your gaits are in the middle. And so if they get trotty, you try to bring their head up and sit back. If they get pacey, you try to bring their head down, relax their back, and tilt a little forward. And, it can be very confusing, okay? So as I'm going around, I'm going to talk about some other stuff. So I'm going to talk about naturally gaited, because people get very confused on this. Was Shane naturally gaited? Yes, he naturally could gait. He couldn't do it all the time, but he would get some steps in here and there, and that's not his fault. It was his breeding, and then his training. His training was lacking, so they didn't really do the right training to get his gaits good before I got a hold of him, okay? But he naturally could do it here and there. When he was loose, he just wouldn't hold it. So naturally gaited, people think that means they gait the entire time, all the time. In some people's mind, that's correct. That's what they're thinking. But in other people's mind, like me, I don't think that. I think they can naturally gait, but I got to do the rest to help them, because each of these horses is different. So some will just gait all day, and you don't have to help them much. And then some are like this, where they can be trotty or pacey, and you got to help them to get that gait. And then you always kind of got to ride them correctly to keep them in that gait. And some people think, well, that's a lot of work. Really? Driving a car is a lot of work. Not getting in an accident is a lot of work. Okay? And you're sitting on a living animal. I think you can put in a little bit of work. It shouldn't just be all them on their own. That's not what it's about. It's a journey together. So you help them, they help you. So if you talk to somebody and you're buying a horse and they say it's naturally gaited, you should ask them, does it gait all the time? Do I have to sit back and lift its head up? Do I have to bring its head down to keep him in gait? Do I have to ride on a short rein? Because those will answer your questions more. And if they say, no, you could gait him in a halter, he just gaits and he never comes out of it, well, then that's a great one, okay? But if they go, no, you do got to sit back and lift his head up, and then he gaits all day, well, that's not that hard to do. So that would be fine. But you want to know that ahead of time. So don't think the salespeople are lying to you. They could, but not, not everybody's lying. They just are talking a different language and you're not understanding what they're talking about. So I believe naturally gated means they can do it here and there by themselves without any special shoes or anything on. And then it's up to us to get it out there. Like you guys could be naturally athletic or gifted. And you're not going to be a pro golfer, though, unless you practice and you learn how to do it correctly, okay? You're not born knowing how to swing a club. But that's what people think the horses can just do that. Okay, so now we're going to go the other way. So I'm just doing my arena routine as I'm talking to you. So he has all these moves really well. And what happened with Shane is people would come try him. He's only 14 one hand. And I tell them that he was small, and they would show up and they go, wow, he's really small. I told you he was small. I told you how much his weight was and how tall he was. And then people would still say that. Then the other thing, people would call and they would be too heavy for him. A horse can carry about 20% of their weight. So if he weighs 800 pounds, and he's actually a little under that, that means he could carry about 160 pounds. That includes your saddle and all your equipment. Okay? So he can't carry, well, he could, but it's not fair to him to carry a real big person. He's 6 years old, he's going to get stockier, and he might go up a little bit. So if you're buying a young horse and you don't want it to be too big, if it's 4 years old and it's 14 two hands, just know it's not going to stay there. It's going to get bigger. So you always got to get, if you're buying a young horse, smaller to allow for the growth so it doesn't get too big. And people don't understand that either. They go, oh, I found the perfect horse. He's 5 years old. He's 15 hands. He's perfect for me, perfect size. And I go, well, he's not going to stay that size. He's only 5 years old. So if he's going to grow, he might make it to 15-1, 15-2, or maybe he'll make it to 16 hands. Sometimes their parents aren't big, but their grandparents are big, right? It happens in our families too. So you have to know that. So if you're trying to get small, you're going to have to get, if it's young, it's going to be under that, It's going to be much smaller because I see people do that all the time and then they end up selling the horse because it got too big. Really? It drives me nuts. So I always tell people, if you want small, it's got to be very small when it's young, okay? So Shane's the perfect size for me. And people would also come try him and think he was a little choppy because they didn't know how to ride him correctly. And some people cared to try and other people didn't. They just wanted him to do all the work. And I was like, that's not how it works with Shane. Because he's growing and he's trying, but he, didn't have all that education to start. Okay? And he's athletic and got good genes, but he doesn't have the gene that he just gaits all day when he's loose. But because he's trotty, he's sure-footed. Because he's trotty, he canters very easily. And I can jump him and do all sorts of stuff. So Shane kept getting passed over. And when that happens, I just go, well, there's a reason. Oh, yeah, I know the reason. I should keep Shane. So now I have Shane. And I'm quite happy that I took him off. And I'm not showing him to anybody anymore because now I can do what I want with him. And he's just a great horse. I posted a video of him and Henry Cowell jumping up stuff. He went up and down stuff that a big horse wouldn't go. The other horse wouldn't step down. It was like a 2 or 3 foot jump down. And Shane's like, hell yeah, let's do that. I'm athletic. I don't care. And I was like, that's right. That's why I like you. But see, I appreciate that, but some other people didn't understand that with him. And, all these horses require work. So you might have a horse that's better gaited than Shane. And if you do, that's great. But Shane's got all the training now. He's got everything I need, and I never am picky with my own horses. The horses just find me. They either don't sell or people don't like them, and I go, you know what? I'll take them. And then they end up being great horses. So just know, nothing's perfect. You got to make it what it is for you. But, I'm glad nobody took them because now I got them. So that's the way it goes. So I've been doing this and talking. He's just been gaiting around and doing a very nice job. Okay? So he tries very hard to do everything you want. He doesn't mess around that much. And for his age, he's very calm and not that spooky. Although I know he can spook. He hasn't had tons of experience, but the experience he's had has been pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to stop. And we're going to give him a break. And I'll give you a break from me talking to you. And then I'm going to show you his next gait so you see what it looks like now. Okay, so now we're going to go to his next gait. And that should be his rocky gait. And we'll see how well he does it today. Know when your horse is young, they can get sore, they can have growing pains, they can be going through all sorts of stuff. So some days they might gait great, some days they might not gait so great because they're growing and people forget. They just think the horses magically grow and have no bone pain. I remember when you were growing up and some days you would have stuff that hurt when you were a kid and your parents would say, it's just growing pains. And you're like, oh, that's right, get some pain. So they can get pain too, they can get sore. And they're growing, so sometimes they can't do stuff for a couple of weeks or a month, and all of a sudden they're fine again. Okay? All right. So here we go. We're going to start, and he's going to slowly, see if the camera's following us, go up to gait. So with their rocky gait, it's a 4-beat lateral gait. And again, some of these horses are more on the trotty side, so they'll do a foxtrot. So if they're foxtrotting or step pacing, you'll have a bounce in the saddle. So videotape it because you'd like to know which one you're doing. Foxtrot is okay, but you don't really want to step pace. So I get him going. Now I want his head down a little bit, and I want his neck relaxed, and then I'm going to try and add more speed. Now the hard part with him is he might get a little bit trotty. I don't care. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're not showing, are we, Shane? We just want a smooth gait that's comfortable for him and comfortable for me. But if you start seeing a little bit of a soft bounce, him, he's usually now going more towards the foxtrot. Now there, he's quite good. Now he's got a little bounce in his steps, so I just kind of half halt it. He's doing the right thing, I just leave him alone now. I don't care so much where his head is. Now there, he got just a little bit on the trotty side, so I'm going to help him and then leave him alone again. Now see how he's got that little like canter step, so I'm going to hold him again. He's doing that because I'm asking for a little bit of speed. Now there he goes again, more towards a trot. See me bounce up and down, so I'm going to support him. Little leg. And I'm going to sit back a little bit more. And when he's good like that, I'm going to leave him alone. Now he just went towards the trot again, but the footing changed right there. So this is going to happen. You know, they're not going to be perfect unless your horse gaits really well. And again, if you got one that does just gait, well, there's issues with that too, because again, some of them are a little bit more trippy or slide their feet more or have stifle issues. There's all sorts of things. So there's good and bad about if they're trotty, pacey, or where they're just gait. Just deal with what you have, learn about it, and try to make it better. Now I'm going to stop for a minute. That was pretty good. And we're not. And we're not going to take a long break, but we're going to take a little break so he knows that's what I'm aiming for. Okay? But he's much, much better. All right. Not too long a break, like I said. Because we still got to get Tilly out, Shane. Okay, so we're going to go back up to speed. So you'll see, if he's going and doing a good job, my reins are on the shorter side, but you'll see they're flopping. I don't have much contact. But I'm here to help him if he needs help. Like right there, he needs help because it goes downhill a little bit. So if you're not showing, you just want a comfortable gait. It really doesn't matter so much if you're doing a foxtrot or the lateral gait, as long as you're happy with it. And you might have people say, well, that's not the rocky gait. Like, whatever. Just be happy, okay? If you want the rocky gait, that's different. We can help you get it. But if you don't care, just get a gait that you're comfortable with. The foxtrot is a very sure-footed gait. Now, again, you'll see he's half cantering, so I'm applying a little pressure. I'm trying to let him go again. Now we got a little trotty right there. And our arena is very uneven. So the horses that can trot and pace and do all this stuff, it's harder for them because when they go through the different terrain, they just do what they think is most sure-footed for them. So that could be the pace or the trot. That's what they do. Because they don't understand. So it's not that your horse is trying to be bad, unless it's just a lazy horse. The lazy ones like to pace more. See? So if you notice, as I'm going around, a lot of stuff's happening in the same spots because it's the terrain. Okay, now we're going to go the other way. So when he does, I just support him, I pick him up, help him, and then I leave him alone again. So in time, he'll just be able to do it. When he's 9 or 10 years old, no one will know he went through any of this. Because they'll think, oh, he's just naturally gaited. He just does it all the time. Now I'm going to stop because that was pretty. That was pretty good. Did you see that little wiggle? You're starting to get a little bit more of that. So, but again, you got to put the training in. That's how they get there. So you can either buy them when they're younger and they need more training, and it takes a long time to get them mature and get those gaits finished. Or you buy one that's finished and you pay a lot more money for it. Or you go to one of those auctions and you buy a young one for $20,000 and have no idea what you're getting into. That happens all the time, but I'm happy to help you if you get that $20,000 4-year-old horse that doesn't gait. Because we can get it to gait, it just doesn't have it in it right yet, right? So this guy's doing really well. He tries very hard, and I grew up with thoroughbred, so for a 6-year-old horse, this is quite amazing. That's why I like the gaited horses. I don't like riding 6-year-old thoroughbreds anymore. Okay, so now we're going to try and gait again. So again, I didn't rest super long because it's hot out here, and we got to get Tilly out. Okay, so now we're going to speed back up. You'll see my reins are flopping. I'll speed up a little bit more. So remember, if they're trotty, sit back a little bit more. Bring their head up a tiny bit if they need help. If they're really hard trotting, sometimes you got to bring their head up as high as you can to get them out of that. And it won't last forever. You do that until they get that lateral gait. Bring their head back down to normal height. Okay? So right here, he's doing fine. There goes that little canter step. So since he's doing fine, I'm not going to mess with his head. He's doing just fine on his own. I'm just going to leave him alone. Now there he got trotty, so I'll sit back, give a little pressure, leave him alone again. Now here he's good, so I'm going to stop. So see, I don't even apply any pressure on the reins. It's just me breathing out. But, I taught him. He knows me real well. He knows all my cues now. But if someone else gets on, they confuse him, and he doesn't know what they're doing. Because a lot of people don't ride the same. And so the horses get very confused. So remember, always try to stop when they're doing the right thing, not when they're doing the wrong thing. Now, I don't need this horse to be super fast. The trails we ride on, we can't go super fast because some of you guys want to rack, and if you go down the roads and stuff, that's fine. That's where you can get the speed, but you can't really do that stuff on curvy trails because you're going to run into somebody or a bike, and, if you're going too fast, you might have an accident. So I get speed in my horses, but I don't do speed racking. So if you want a horse like that, you know, of course you can follow me, but then you might want to follow a speed racker. Okay, we're going to go a little faster. You can have your reins like this, sure, right? But I don't like to. That's my preference. I grew up riding English. I like to have my reins where I can use them. And a lot of people always think that means riding on a tight rein. My reins aren't tight at all. I'm just holding them shorter. But he's feeling the same thing in his mouth versus if it's long or if it's short. But if you ride on a big long rein like this and your horse comes out of gait, it's harder to help them. See him come out of gait. Now I got to grab the reins here and kind of sit back and help him get my reins back. The other thing, if you're running down the trail like this and something jumps out of a bush, well, see, now he's trying. It's much harder to get your reins that the horse is spinning around, okay? But if you have your reins short enough, then you just apply the contact and help your horse. So I'm going to apply contact right here, help him where he was trotting before, and then I just let him go. Now see that little wiggle in my butt? That's what we're trying to get with him. But you saw at times when I started out, he was a little trotty. And he was cantering and doing all sorts of stuff. It's okay. It just comes with time and practice. And our arena is a mess right now. Okay, I'm going to stop. It's all up and down. Nobody's dragged it. I haven't dragged it. It needs to kind of be leveled. Okay? All right. So that's it for his gait. I'm going to try and show you his canter. I like to canter the poles because it helps kind of rock them back. Some horses can canter poles well, some can't, depending on their back end and their conformation, but he can. So with him, if I'm cantering, those poles help him to rock him back. He got very confused in the beginning between the canter and the rack, and he kept trying to do both at the same time. So sometimes when I'm asking him for the canter, he tries to gait, and I have to be like, no, come on, we're going to try and canter. So again, the horses can get confused with their cues, and that's just normal. It's part of growing up. It's part of learning, and you got to be patient and just try to clearly show them what the right answer is. Okay? All right. So as we go off, we're going to ask for his right lead because that's his weaker lead, and we want to build that one up. And we'll go around, and as I ask him to canter, I'll shift my weight, like you always hear me say. And if he doesn't get the canter, I'll just walk and try to get it again. Okay, so here we go. Canter. Now see, he kind of gaited. Now he's shaking his head. Now he's in between cantering and gaiting, so more leg. That happens. There you go. Okay. Now if you do the poles, and you're going to canter over them, you've got to kind of know how to jump a little bit and pick the spot where to leave. If you don't get the spot, like we didn't get the spot there because I was talking, that's okay. They'll just usually do that, or they might leave big, like Tilly will leave big. So there we didn't get the canter. Start again. Because these horses, if you try to run them into the canter, they usually get chippy. It's usually the lateral ones. Now we didn't get it again, so it's okay. Canter. There we go. Now he's pretty well balanced, but if I feel that he's losing it, I'm going to have to push with my leg and my feet hit the saddle. Come forward out of your turn. So if you canter poles when you're coming out of a turn, they suck back, so try to come forward. The bull. well. He got us out of there, so it's good practice. Half halt to back, leg. Good job. Oh, there we go. Good job, Janie. To do some different stuff. Each horse is different, but the Rockies can usually canter the post pretty well. So walking horses, you got to go usually a little bit slower and help them more because they have a problem getting their back feet over the pole. But I still do poles. Okay? But these guys are more agile in a different way. But the walking horses can beat you guys up the hill usually every single time. Just walking. So they all have their benefits and their differences. It's just what you have. And I like having, different breeds because they're fun to play around with. Okay, so now we're going to go the other way. His left lead is better. He picks it up usually better, but we'll see. You never know. Camera goes on, everything changes. So we're going to half halt, shift our weight. Canter. Now a horse can have a bad canter, and you can make it a nice canter. So this is quite nice. They always usually canter a little bit better on the trail. But see, his canter's nice and slow. It's very comfortable this way. But if you don't know how to hold on or save or balance yourself, then you would just flop all over him and you wouldn't know what to do. And then the canter wouldn't be so good. So the more balanced you are, the better you can ride. The better that you can help them, the better their canter would be. Now I'm going to come forward a little bit more because getting over the poles that slow isn't going to work out so well. He's still slow. No, you don't have to do that many poles this way. So you're trying to pick a spot for them to lead. Come forward, out of your turn, half halt, kind of drive with your seat. So you missed it that time. That's okay. It's hard picking spots with poles. It's easier with fences. Better. Okay, Shane's tired and it's hot out. Good job. All right, so that's where Shane is. That might help some of you work on their canter, their gait. And again, he was trotty, then he went more step pacey, and now it's quite nice. And he's being very smooth and it's very comfortable and fun, but it took some time getting him there. And when people got on and tried him, they confused him. So he said, I want to stay with you, Mom. And I said, okay, Shane. You can stay here because Mama loves you. Yes, she does. Okay. All right, hope that helps some of you out there.